So thank you very much, Jennifer, and thank you, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity of being here today to present a few insights of our report on offshore wind outlook, which is part of the World Energy Outlook that will be actually released today. And today is a very important day actually for the International Energy Agency, since our flagship publication will be unveiled today at 11 a.m. Just for everyone, in case they are interested, the launch presentation will be broadcast from the IEA webpage. So in case you will have the chance, you could be following it from your phones later on. And coming back to the presentation, I will try to squeeze my presentation to 15 minutes. Normally, it takes half an hour, so it's going to be challenging, but I will try to be brief on the messages that we're seeing behind this technology. So let's start by giving a little bit of context on why we chose to make an outlook on the offshore wind. From the IEA, we've seen a growing disconnect between the climate ambition targets from different companies, from different nations, and the real-life CO2 trends, with new maximums reached last year. At the same time, we believe from the IEA that there is not such a single nor a simple solution to address the environmental challenge. We need renewables on one side, but at the same time, we need energy efficiency measures, we need CCUS, and we need many of the technologies that my colleagues will be speaking about later on in the presentations. But the reality is that nowadays, most of them are off track of these climate goals. So we chose finally offshore wind because we've seen a huge growth market growth actually in the last decade. It's followed a 30% year-on-year basis growth since 2010, second to solar technologies, reaching in 2018 a 0.3 out of the total electricity produced in the world. We are very happy to announce that we believe this report is the most comprehensive analysis up to date around this technology. But let me explain to you the different models and the different analyses we made through the following slides. And let's start mentioning actually the new geospatial analysis that we made in collaboration with the Imperial College, where we have taken into account not only the latest data available on weather and wind speed, but we have leveraged as well the latest turbine models that will come to the market in the next few years. And as you can see in the blue bars, this is the results of our technical potential analysis all around the world. And we see that the technical potential of offshore wind is huge and is spread all around the world. Taking a little bit of a look on the different regions, we see Europe actually where we have the best wind resources focused on the North Seas, followed by the United States, where they come with very good wind resources on the East Coast, these jointly with shallow waters. On the contrary, if we want to develop offshore wind on the West Coast, we will need to move and to bring to the market floating structures, which is the same case for Japan. China, they have very good wind resources as well along the East Coast, actually where the biggest population centers are focused. In India, we see more modest wind resources, but at the same time, we believe that offshore wind can play as well a very important role on helping the country to achieve their policy transmissions. So, what are these numbers? Maybe it might be a little bit, disconnection from the real world, but if we put them into connection with what's electricity demand today, which is the yellow bar we are showing, we see that offshore wind actually is able to provide a few times what is actually the total electricity demand today, being able to provide up to 18 times today electricity global demand, with regions, for example, as the European Union, being able to provide as 11 times as the electricity demand is today in the European countries. So with this one, let's focus now on what's the leader offshore wind market up to date, the European Union, where it was actually back in 1991 in the Danish coast when the Danish government unveiled the first offshore wind park. Of course, many things have changed since that, and policies has helped the European Union to reach nearly 20 gigawatts of capacity installed in 2018. Out of that, around 8 gigas was in the UK, 6.5 in Germany, and Denmark, Belgium, and Netherlands made up together around 3.6 gigawatts of capacity installed of offshore wind. And just to mention, for example, last year in 2018, all these countries together added a total capacity of 2.7 gigawatts. But we are not only seeing this spectacular growth in the last decade, but we are actually forecasting very good signs for offshore wind markets. Under encouraging policies in place, actually, the European Union is expected to increase by 4 times the capacity installed by the end of the next decade. Let's take now a step back and take a look on what we see actually in the scenarios of the IEA happening in terms of global capacity additions. And as we can see, the growth is expected to happen in many markets in the next few decades. Global capacity additions are expected to grow by 13%, and this is under our stated policy scenarios, which is the IEA scenario that takes into consideration the plans from different governments to be put in place. Total capacity installed is expected to grow by 15-fold from 2018 up to 2040, becoming a 1 trillion investment, a 1 trillion industry, during this period. This level of spending will be matching what is the spending, what will be actually the cumulative spending of gas-fired and coal-fired plants. Would be actually supposing 10% of total investment in power generation, on power and renewable power generation. So taking a closer look, what we are seeing on each region, we see that the European Union will keep on being the leader market in 2040, closely followed by China, which is closing the gap, spurred by recent efforts to increase their construction capacity before 2020. And just to mention here that China in 2018 added a total capacity of 1.6 gigawatts. That was actually the most of any country. We have the US, where stated level policies prepared the ground for offshore wind to growth, and other countries such as Korea, India, or Japan that will be developing ambition plans for projects to start developing. So now I will move actually in the next two slides to try to explain a little bit of what we see as the main factors backing up this growth. So on one side, we have rapid cost reductions for offshore wind as the main one. And we've seen actually generation costs for offshore wind around the world to average around $140 per megawatt hour in 2018. That is when we consider actually full market risk for projects. But what is interesting to see here for many people, we see that when we are taking a look into the components of what is compounding this generation cost, is not actually the technology cost, but the finance, the biggest part of the cake in here. And because of that, policy framework has been effectively addressing these concerns and starting to enable low-cost finance for projects. So that means actually that for the same project commissioned in 2018, under these enabling conditions, a total generation cost will be closer to $100 per megawatt hour. Additionally, when we are actually taking a look on what we'll be expecting actually in the next decade, from one side we will have that maturing technologies and a more efficient supply chains. We'll be bringing technology costs down by 60% in the next in the near long term, in the near medium term, sorry. And on the other side, we will have transmission costs, which are expected to remain a little bit more stable since project will be moving farther away from the coast. But when putting all this together, generation costs for offshore wind are expected to drop by 40% by 2025. And we are already seeing this actually in the recent strike prices from the European auctions, when we are seeing actually offshore wind prices that will be soon competing with new gas power plants, new gas fire power plants, and will be in pair of that for solar and onshore wind. That was the first reason. The second reason we are seeing backing up this growth actually is the improvement of the productivity of the offshore wind farms, thanks to the technology development. So the best way to represent this is by comparing the different annual capacity factors of several power generation technologies. So we have on one side that new efficient gas-fired generation plants average capacity factors around 50%, being able to go from 30 to over 60 depending on the time of the year that we produce electricity. At the same time, we have solar PV going from 10% to around 20% in the best locations, and onshore wind actually being able to provide electricity operating from around mid-20s to over 40%, where we have the best wind sources. So in parallel, we have that new offshore wind projects can work in the range from 40 to 50% of capacity factors, thanks to the larger turbines that are coming to the market and the technology improvement that are getting actually the most of the resources available. So at this level of performance, offshore wind is placed close to capacity factor of new efficient gas-fired plants, even near or close to coal-fired plants in some places in the world, and of course exceeding the production from solar PV and onshore wind. So in addition to that, we have, in addition to this high capacity factor, we have that the variability of the offshore wind production, it's less than that for other technologies. We have electricity production for offshore wind variating around 20% throughout the year. This, for example, in comparison to other technologies such as solar PV, which stands around 40%, it's quite lower. So then we have from one side high capacity factors and lower variability throughout the year. with these two things combined, I mean, put the cost, the system value actually, the offshore wind, closer to the baseload technologies, placing offshore wind in a new category that we call from the IEA variable baseload technologies. So all these things together, as I said, this combination of factors can place offshore wind in the cornerstone of the global energy transition. So we are taking a look now to what is the expected electricity generation in the European Union under our sustainable development scenario. That's the IEA scenario, which is compiled with the Paris Agreement. And we have on one side that coal-fired plants will be sharply declining by 2050. Also, gas-fired plants will be coming down while focusing on providing flexibility to the system. And nuclear as well, with IPs dropped, will be due to the aging fleet of the plants. Even actually the efforts from different nations of extending the lifetime of the plants, and as well new projects coming online. On the contrary, we have renewable projects increasing their output, increasing their generation share over the total, with actually offshore wind becoming the largest single electricity generation technologies in terms of electricity produced by 2040, reaching over 20% from the 2% that we have today. But this combination of capacity factors and improving cost of competitiveness will be only not key to help decarbonizing the power sector, but offshore wind could play a really important role on helping decarbonize others, such as the transport and the heat sectors. How? By the production of hydrogen. Without transmission, actually the cost of producing electricity from onshore will be at around $30 to $40 per megawatt hour, making a very attractive option for the production of it, and at the same time being able to reuse some of the old oil and gas infrastructure, especially in the North Sea. But this to materialize, we need to see a steep cost reduction on the hydrogen production technologies first, and on the other side, we need clear commitment from regulators to increase the demand of low-carbon hydrogen. So a few insights, a few takeaways of the report. We were mentioning actually from one side that offshore wind is set to become a $1 trillion industry over the next few decades. But of course, for this to materialize, we need both governments and industry to be aligned on their compromises and efforts. Very important for policymakers, assuring long-term clarity, but as well to plan all the pieces inside the puzzle. We cannot forget actually the planning of the onshore grids, which are very important to provide and to avoid actually the possible future curtailment on the output of the offshore wind. Market mechanisms, very important as well as we were saying, to allow low-cost finance for projects to take off. And last but not least, offshore wind can provide security to the system, as well as to make the transition more affordable. And of course, I mean, we were discussing not only helping to decarbonize the power system, but as well helping to decarbonize other sectors by providing low-carbon hydrogen. And that has been everything. I would like to thank you all for this, for the time here, as well to remind that you can actually go to the IEA website and download the report. It's for free for future reference. Thank you very much.